for much more talented
Okay.
people to work
Yes.
to create adaptive works.
I started the stream, and I just want to say one more thing before I forget is, so remember when I said that he released a book under a pen name, right? Like he did like with Bachman. The book he released got literally no traction. It was rated a 3 out of 5, I believe. And then
It was
and
mediocre.
then he said like, "Oh, I wrote this book." And then all the reviews came in. It immediately jumped up to like a 4 or 5, 4 or 5 or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
Cool.
of course, because it's Stephen King.
Yeah. So
Yeah, because it comes with clout.
I think his writing has deteriorated a bit with his
Yeah.
Oh,
Also,
first win, gamers. Done. I'm playing Magic.
Nice. Every Stephen King book has the same formula. Almost all of his protagonists are writers and alcoholics.
Yes.
Psychic powers comes up as a Deus Ex Machina, which is French for "Are you fucking kidding me?" The various monsters can be overcome with like the power of true love or the heart of the cards or whatever.
Are you reading this from something?
No.
The other thing too is that he doesn't know how to write an ending for an extended piece. He can do it with short stories and novellas. He cannot do it with an extended novel. He doesn't plan,
You forget.
which is insane to me.
You forget his.
Like I fly by the seat of my pants, but I do it with skill. I sit on a story for 20 years and then I explode in a giant flaming pile of whatever the fuck I'm doing. I'm inking right now, actually.
Cool.
You forget his most explicit trait, having, LGBTQ plus characters, but never expanding upon them other than, oh, I implied that they are this.
Oh, they're gay, and also one of them gets totally ganked by Pennywise at the very beginning of It, so that's great. Thanks a lot, Stephen King.
Yeah. Like,
No, you forget in the very beginning and the very end.
Oh yeah,
but,
also...
Richie being gay, it wasn't even Stephen King's invention. That was a spin made by Hollywood.
Yes, that was...
And I'm not sure if that was a wise move, because call me a cynic, that just smacked of to me them very insincerely cashing in on the fact that movies that explore LGBT themes have clout.
Yes.
Like, call me, like, as I said, call me a cynic.
No,
Well,
please be a cynic, because
then,
you're right on the money, my friend.
And let's see here. Oh yeah, did you?
Thank you.
You know what character coding and how most people who it's one of the things where it's like so in the I believe 60s and onwards you couldn't make like LGBTQ plus characters, right? Except
yes,
in
so
villain
true.
roles.
Can I talk to you about the Hays Code? Can I please talk to you about the Hays Code?
Like, okay, Cassie and I have talked at length about the comics code, so I will have so much to say on this.
Okay, so here's the Hays Code. Okay, the Hays Code is the reason you couldn't have you could have a gay character on screen. You had two options. Number one, villain. Hence we have Professor Radigan. Hence we have what I'm doing today. 2, tragic love story. Gay person has to die at the end. No closure to that story. Bad. It shows that people at being gay is a bad thing that you don't want to do because you will end up with emotional devastation. Those are the only 2 things you could do with gay people in stories. Before that, there's a gay kiss in 1929's Wings. There's a gay kiss in a silent film. There's a gay kiss. There's gay characters throughout different detective film noir shorts from the 10s, 20s, and up to the 30s when talkies began, because the Hays Code was somewhere between the 20s and the 30s, as I recall. And it wasn't, and even after the Hays Code was revoked, now remember, you've got a generation or 2 of young people who grew up only with 2 options for seeing themselves. You're either a villain or you're going to die. What kind of stories do you start writing? The first sort of glimpse of hope we see in some of the wider mainstream narratives is when we get Little Shop of Horrors, which is by Alan Menken, who died of AIDS, who later went on to do The Little Mermaid. There is so much queer tragedy embedded into the Disney genre that I think it's disgusting that Disney throws us these table scraps and says, "Here, we're actually queer friendly." When I'm like, no, I'm sure Alan Menken died in fucking agony, you piece of shit. Like,
well, Disney has always infuriated me. I'm not a Disney fan.
No.
I know a lot about the movies, but I'm not I do not give my money to Disney on principle.
No, I don't give them my money anymore either.
And what infuriates me is that this is more of their treatment of ethnicities and sexualities that applies.
Mm-hmm.
It was a different time. Really, only applies to nomenclature. Like the depictions that they have still have to come from a really nasty place of malice.
No, exactly. And I have had this discussion with my boyfriend before. They're not drawing people, they're drawing let me put it to you this way. You're a bad artist. You don't care what people look like. You only want to draw straw men that you can punch. And then you point to the straw man and you said, hey, "Look, I punched it, I won." That's how that works. They're not drawing people. Whereas I take very great pains to ensure that, like, when I'm drawing anybody, that I'm drawing a person. Even if I had to sit, gun to my head, and draw a portrait of somebody I loathed, I would still draw a person. Because I would pour my hate into every single detail of that person, and it would come through regardless of whether or not I was making a nasty caricature. Because I would be able to imbue the image with the essence of what I dislike about that person.
Like caricature is fine. I feel it's a legitimate form of art, but
yes,
it's not like. Don't zero in on racial traits, because caricature comes from a personal exaggeration. It doesn't come from, like.
Yes, it does, and that's actually cross-culturally very interesting because. When I was in Japan, I saw an advertisement that I swear to God, you could have pulled it from like a 1940s, we're fighting Japan from America kind of thing. You picture that, like a P.I. Yoshi. Turns out the comedian actually does have rather large front teeth and wears glasses. So I was like, "Miki, what is going on? Who's that guy?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, he's a comedian." And she was just like, just totally like just talking about him. And I'm like, "Oh. Okay." So I was very taken aback for a second there.
Yeah, like, who here has ever seen Tokyo Jokyo?
Nope.
Okay, it's a banned film. I feel it's an important part of animation history. I don't think it's a celebrated part of animation history. It was a propaganda film by Warner Brothers, extolling the dangers of the Japanese during World War II. It's so malicious.
Yeah, I can just.
And it goes beyond like the excuse that you're like, even if your country's at war,
There's like real like embedded loathing.
Yeah.
Like because like there's a difference between hating something and loathing something. I think when you hate something, there's a certain part of you that can still engage with it. When you loathe something, you are so disgusted and repelled that you just build a version of it in your head.
Yeah,
to an extent.
Like, and I feel, no offense to NG, I feel that this is a running trend with America. Like, when they are attacked, so like Pearl Harbor and 9/11, like the response to them, again, because these are real tragedies, it's hard to assess like neutrally, because these are real lives that have been lost.
Yeah.
And there's no neutrality in reality, I'm afraid.
Yeah. But like when you get both Pearl Harbor and 9/11, the malice that came afterwards towards, again, like, I can't say the minority is responsible, because that's a fucking disgusting attitude to take, but it seems to be the attitude that was taken.
unfortunately. It's getting really late for me.
Okay. All right. Toodles, man.
Have a good night.
Yes, thanks. By the way, check the staff only chat.
I saw. I was so impressed.
Let's see, the staff only or staff portfolio?
Staff only. Well, both.
Oh yeah, that's the drawing you pumped out like in an instant. That I wouldn't be able to do in my life.
Yeah, like Bun, I am so glad that you're on staff. I really am.
Hey. Again, I'm just throwing these for fun because they take me 10 minutes or whatever. But if you want again something serious,
like we'll pay you what you're worth if we're using it in the game. Like that's just how you treat artists fairly.
Yeah.
don't worry. Go for it, of course. I mean, these are just for
Have a
fun,
great
eh?
night.
You too. Yeah.
Buonanotte.
Notte, buonanotte. Night.
Notte.
Yeah.
Notte. That's a fun word to say.
So, yeah.
No.
So we were saying.
I've totally forgotten what we were talking about. Oh yeah, right. And again, that's just sort of goes back to how I feel about how certain artists will caricature people. Is again, they're not drawing people anymore, and I think that that's a very dangerous route to take. As soon as you start treating people like objects, that's when I think you start mistreating people.
Yeah.
That's a Terry Pratchett line that I've cribbed. It's a personal motto of mine, actually. Sin starts when you start treating people like things.
Yeah, like Terry Pratchett. God
rest his soul. I cried when he passed away. Like I get verklempt talking about him. I love him so much. Like I talk sometimes like to my witch friends about like these figures in my life who are sort of like brother or sister scholars or sibling scholars, and he was one of them. I knew him intimately.
Be very honest.
Yes.
Your favorite book?
Thud. I have read Thud. I know it like the back of my hand. I feel like I've walked those cobbles.
I think Thud is an amazing book. I think that
even you can master death.
the fact that he made a game that you can play is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but it's like when he and I again, like that sort of sibling scholar thing I was talking about. When you have a world that you live in all the time, stuff like that just comes up. It just happens. Like I don't consciously consider stuff necessarily like when I'm making music. It's all for that world, but I'm not doing it consciously. It just sort of comes through me, and it's like, oh, so that's how that goes. Oh, okay, so it's got to go like this.
I tried.
It's like it's telling itself in a way.
Cool. Like this is just me being a fangirl because I'm in love with the setting that you and Cassie did. What was your like creative drive for Airway Rock? Like, because you made the culture from the ground, you made the currency from the ground up, which I think is an amazing touch.
That was a Cassie thing. I can't do currency.
Like,
I'm pretty sure.
Well, like,
no, we did discuss currency. That's right.
Like you like it was a coal-based currency. Like that was like
yes.
It was a consumable currency.
Which was highly unusual, and we had discussions about what would be the best mode of going through with that because we also needed it to be able to be transported.
Like because it was more than just like it was more than just like a fantasy setting. You made a viable world.
Right, and that's what I love to do. Is world building is one of my big passions in life. Like I
the fact that you flavored it with you did flavor it with a lot of fetish content, but that's sort of what I also enjoy about it because like seeing the ways that you legitimized it, Vic. Like what would you say? I'm not very.
Just very flattered right now. Thank you.
Yeah. The one thing I will say is I'm not very clear where Airway Rock ends and where the jungle.
No, see, and that wasn't really clear to us either because we were going to have like this sort of. It was going to pick back up at one point, 100 years in the future or something like that. After the collapse of Airway Rock, which was sort of the inevitable like end of capitalism, kind of thing.
I adore the Harlequins as a culture.
You know what? I love the Harlequins and I love the comedian. The comedian was kind of like my pet, and I asked Cassie, like, he's kind of mine now.
You mean the maestro?
I call him the comedian now. See, that's how this is what it's turned out. Because do you know what? When I've designed him. I haven't actually managed to put him on paper yet. But do you know who he's based on?
Who?
Robin Williams.
Nice.
Like,
like it was a blend of for me it was a blend of anarchism, new age thinking, and sort of Quincy punk culture.
Oh, I don't know what that last one is.
It's a subgenre of punk culture. The idea of this society built around constant adrenaline rush, but that somehow like in the service of that constant adrenaline rush, they've achieved egalitarianism.
Yes, and that was what was so fun about it, was that
like there is no sin other than being boring.
Yes, that was it. And we were gonna have like guys in business suits spelling that up in the on the wall, like just dead people.
Yeah, but the only intolerance comes from your own exhaustion. And I don't mean that tired people get racist. I mean, like, how dare you get tired and kill the buzz?
Yeah, exactly. That's the one thing you're not allowed to kill, right?
Yeah.
We actually even had like the sleep room where there was like, oh god, what was his name? The Sandman, I think. We were just calling him the Sandman, where you were required to sleep. If you were not sleeping, the Sandman would knock you out.
Yeah, like no, it was yeah, I think that was it. Sorry, Cassie, like, because I like D&D, and this is just a perfect setting for a homebrew. Cassie did send me some notes when I asked. I liked
so is.
Yeah, I loved the characters of the princelings.
Yes. I did send you that art, did I not?
Yeah. No, you didn't. Well, you sent me the art of two of them. I know that more exist. So how dare you keep...
I don't know where the sketchbook is.
Okay. Would you like my interpretation as a fan?
Sure.
I think that the like Rosencrantz's entourage from Airway Rock, is it called The Jungle?
Yeah, The Jungle was sort of the second story.
Yeah. The Rosencrantz's entourage from Airway Rock is the better contrast for the princelings. Because what I interpret the princelings to be is the resurgence of capitalism in a now anarchic society.
I like that.
Like, in a way that capitalism, because of its nature, is sort of has a tendency to rebuild itself, because it's a logical conclusion that I'm not doing extra work if everyone gets the same.
Yes. Yeah, that's a really interesting take. I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah. Like, the Emperor, and this is maybe just me, like, reading too much into it. The Emperor seems to me like a representation of the, like, tail end of communist years, whereas the princelings seem like a representation of the birth of capitalism at the end of a communist society.
Oh, that's really interesting, because none of that was done consciously, but I really like that interpretation.
See, 'cause to me, the Emperor, like, his motivation is largely like the creation of an ethno-state.
Yes, correct.
Like, it was sort of a boggart supremacy, or like the hoard of resources to benefit boggarts primarily.
Yeah.
Whereas from the groundwork that the Emperor laid, the princelings had a much greater threat from that, which was privilege.
Oh, interesting.
Simply because they were the ones left with resources and education and privilege in the collapse of a communist society.
Okay. See, and this is where some of my lack of historical knowledge fails me, because like I wouldn't have drawn these parallels because I just don't know that history.
Yeah, like
I would be really interested to see what you have to say about my comic when I get the next little bit up.
Please do. One of my other favorite characters was Hyena. I know that was a Cassie creation. He has all the hallmarks of it.
And we both love hyenas, so
Yeah. To me, Hyena not only represents a very rare type of masculinity, because hyenas are famously effeminate males. Hyena, to me, represents neurodivergence.
yes, yes, I like that a lot. You didn't, again, not conscious, but I'm loving this, so go right ahead.
This is just my interpretation of a setting that I've gobbled up. Now, I'm forgetting a lot of the Harlequin names. By the way, Knack were an amazing addition. They're an amazing concept, and to me, they spell out an egalitarian society perfectly. Because it would have been so easy for you to say, well, you're defined by your knack, or your knack greases the wheels of your standing in culture. The fact that the Harlequins don't give a fuck about them, and neither do the Empire, despite that being the perfect vehicle for it, is that is to me a message of hope that individual talents can never be stripped of you, no matter in an egalitarian society, nor a capitalist one.
Yeah, it is a very sort of I liked the knacks because again, I can tell I like superpowers. Superheroes are born.
Yeah. Also, Hyena's knack is just very clever. Cassie attributes some of that to you, as in some of the refinement.
Never thought I'd miss the
Was he the one with the time stop ability? I'm sort of blanking on some of these.
Okay, Hyena had this thing where he borrows time.
Oh, that's right.
If he slows it down, it has to speed up again to balance out, and vice versa.
Oh, I see. Right. That makes sense.
So
it was this almost like a yo-yo.
Yeah, if Hyena were to slow down time, it would have to speed up again from his perspective to make up for the slowdown.
Right.
So you can have a little extra now, but you're gonna have to pay for it later.
There's a little bit of Thief of Time in there as well. Did you read Thief of Time? That's a Pratchett.
Yeah, I think I did. I may be confusing it with another book though.
He wrote so many.
Yeah. I liked Diamond Dave's ability a lot. I think that was very clever.
I love Diamond Dave's ability so much that I may actually ask Cassie if I can crib it for my comic.
She'll probably say yes.
She'll probably say yes.
The fact, what I like about it is that Diamond Dave did a lot of damage with it, despite it having very little, there was no possible way to assess that it would have any sort of combat application, but it was just how you used it in conjunction with very obvious human vices.
Yes, it was very clever. I loved the whole dynamic that character had.
Well, I really liked it. I really liked his dynamic with the character Rufus.
Oh right, the woodsman who was kind of insane.
Yeah, but the fact that he was insane, it really was that Dave had a very noble trait of, despite him being a psychopath in every sense of the word, Dave did genuinely believe a deal is a deal.
Yes, that's right, because he had that one moral code that made him just that little bit like, oh, mwah, you know?
Yeah, like he could have very easily had lied to Rufus or not held up his end of the bargain, and he had no real reason to care about this insane man's vendetta. But the fact that he still held up his end of the bargain, yeah, that was just an amazing touch to an amazing villain. I really liked Randall's dynamic with is it Yuko?
Yuka. I'm actually
Yeah.
about to. Oh my god, do you want to see Yuka? Have you ever seen art of Yuka?
I have
Oh my
a
god, please!
picture.
I've seen old art
Okay.
of it.
You'll learn the
You've seen old
power
art? Well, here's
of
new art. This is Yuka, fully embraced, non-binary Yuka.
Oh please!
Where the fuck's my phone? There it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked Randall and Yuka's dynamic.
Hey, babe.
I like them a lot better than. I like them a lot better than Yuka and Rosie's dynamic. I'm so sorry.
That's totally fine. Yuka and Rosie aren't really. They aren't the best pair, in my personal opinion. Like, Yuka is way too moral a person to get along with Rosie, for one thing. They certainly don't get along in this comic, that's for sure.
I liked Randall's motivation for joining Yuka's entourage. Sorry, Rosie's entourage, which was mainly horniness.
It's a good reason to do a lot of stuff. Here's Yuka.
Thank you. Now, Yuka's is just, he's part of a dimensional faring race, isn't he?
Correct. They're effectively humans with just dialed up slightly to
Oh, I
11.
love-
There's nothing like extra human about them per se. They just have good magic.
I love
So like
his lip.
elves.
Yeah, Yuka's sort of function in this story is he's sort of this outsider look at this culture that just about everybody else in the comic has been a part of their whole lives. Because Yuka's literally filling the slot of the anime exchange student character because it's just perfect for it, for them. I swap between he and they for Yuka because Yuka in his home culture is a non-binary person of which there is a category for that social role. So the term is Datama.
So he's like a two-spirit.
I don't use that word personally, because it's not mine, but effectively like
I would say
a
maybe
non-Western conception of gender for sure.
I would use that more as a not as a an example. I would say that more as a example found in real human cultures, but not
Okay, that's
a similar.
fair. That's totally fair.
I wouldn't use it as a similarity. I would use it just as a this is something that happens in real cultures as well.
Yes, absolutely. Which is it even happens kind of in horticulture, which I think I've talked about.
Okay. My personal interpretation of Randall and Yuka, and this goes into a bit of race politics here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, having only seen a like ancillary arcs, I interpret Rosie as being white coded,
Oh yes, 100%.
and I interpret Yuka as being native coded, and I interpret Randall as being Latin coded.
What do you mean by
That
native?
that all, First Nations.
Sorry, what are you saying, Vic?
Oh, that you're absolutely on the money.
And what I interpret between sort of both Rosie's relationship with both Randall and Yuka, and Yuka's relationship with Randall, to me that is an incredibly clever allegory for allyship.
Actually, that's really quite true, isn't it?
What with both Yuka and Randall being, I say they're part of Rosie's entourage, and I
They are.
I say that because I know what Airway Rock did as a premise. It was essentially a radio company.
Yes.
I was never clear on exactly what Randall and Yuka did.
Bodyguards, eye candy, arm candy.
Yeah. Like, I know that there's a secretary character. I know that Diamond Dave was actually the radio guy.
Yes, and actually, I don't know if we ever got to this, but Rosie is like one of the cruxes of his character is actually the fact that he's musically trained. Like he's a basso profondo opera singer. He's can play basically any instrument. Very talented on the piano, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, so see, and it never really came up because Diamond Dave sort of became like the focus of being like the radio disc jockey. Because in Airway Rock, actually, Rosie was fairly like powered down from how he usually is. Like he's usually the big bad evil guy. But I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna let him have his cake and eat it too this time. If you're gonna be in the story, you're gonna be a rich fat boy. That's how it's gonna work.
Yeah, like to me, Rosie was more of a living crutch character. Like he was central in a lot of villainous machinations.
Right, and he was almost like the big bro. He was almost on that level of like uselessness,
Like,
which I thought was very funny.
From what my interpretation of Airway Rock is, it is the story of Rosie's company, and the reason I like this interpretation is, to me, it's Rosie's life itself would be inconsequential if it wasn't for the fact that if he died, his employees would be out on their arse.
Yes, and that's part. Also, kind of one of the things that I thought was really fun about that setting was that instead of it being, there's literally no reason for this female character to exist except there's no reason for this male character to exist except. Yeah. And I thought that was very fun for me because usually Rosie holds the story together. Like my Dungeons and Dragons campaign, he is the eventual threat that my players are going to come up against, kind of thing. So a lot of it was sort of stuff on my part, exploring this character on an axis that I'd never really done before, and I found it actually enriched my ability to write and conceptualize him.
Yeah, like my interpretation of Rosie was that. He is someone who believed himself to be like an elaborate mastermind.
Yes.
Found himself at the mercy of much more threatening psychopaths.
Yes. Whereas usually the case is that he's the one pulling all the strings. And
one of the things I loved about Airway Rock, maybe not so much the jungle, simply because in Airway Rock, there were several female characters, and in the jungle, I can only think of one.
There were more female Harlequins that didn't, like, sort of, I think, get divested. But you're absolutely right. The balance was more skewed.
No, but I know that in the Harlequins there was a Yuka's mother.
A descendant, I think, was what we had concluded.
Yeah.
Yes.
What I interpreted was that she was also somewhat genderqueer.
Yes, and actually, let me link you up. I will show you the document. I had a Manic episode several years ago and did this. I construct languages as a hobby.
Please.
Do I have it up? It will probably be illegible to anybody that isn't me.
That's the best kind.
But I can go through it chunk by chunk if you want to.
Of course.
Chunk by Minecraft chunk.
Yeah, but like with Airway Rock, Ruby, Mona, and Coffee are very well constructed female characters.
Mona was so much fun.
And I liked how they all play on a very basic premise of like they all seem to play on a very basic premise of feminine lust, but I think that you very, very well reconstructed the idea.
Well, here's the thing, is that, like, when I sometimes feel like I struggle to write female characters, but my litmus test for myself is, do I enjoy this character as much as I enjoy the Bayonetta universe? Because that's such a... There's so many feminine hands in that game and the building of that universe and the design work and stuff. And part of the reason I like Bayonetta so much is because I want to be her. I want to try to... when I approach a female character, I try to offer something to the audience. Like, if you're not interested in women sexually, do you want to be this person? Would you want to step into her shoes for a day? Do you want to stomp on some little boys, you know? And sort of approach it from that end. Like, what am I offering the audience in terms of mapping? How does the audience map onto these characters that I've created?
This stream, but it's been mostly interesting conversations. I hope y'all have an interesting day, audience.
Sorry, Angie.
No, it's all right. And good night. See ya.
Signing out.
Geez.